Before we jump into the system and see how GL accounts are created, I brought you one slide to explain the process, as this is very crucial to understand. You already know that in SAP we have so-called chart of accounts. Those chart of accounts list all of our general ledger accounts that we need for our company codes. However, as we can assign one chart of accounts to one or even multiple company codes, the general ledger account master record is divided into two parts. One is called the chart of accounts segment. The chart of accounts segment of a general ledger account contains all data that applies to all company codes assigned to this chart of account, and is therefore also identical for all of the company codes. This includes information like the account number, also the description, general information, and so on. And then we have one or even multiple so-called company code segments. The company code segments contain data that can vary between the company codes. So for instance, we could have a general ledger account with the number 1 million. We create it in the chart of accounts. And then we assign our company codes. So we maintain company code specific data. For instance, we have a company code A, and there we maintain the currency euro. And then we have a company code B, and there we maintain the currency US dollar, and so on. Now let's jump into the system to see this in action. In our S/4HANA system, we jump to the transaction code FSP0. That's FSP0. We are forwarded to this kind of landing page. First of all, here on the left hand side, you can see all of our GL accounts assigned to this chart of account YCOA. And they are actually arranged in those folders over here. So I can expand the view, and here we'll see all of the GL accounts. We can also search via this button for a GL account. We can create a new GL account. This is what we will do in a second. Once we selected one GL account, we can also edit it. We can copy or even block the GL account. On the right hand side, you can see kind of a blank page, because as of now we did not open any GL account. If I would open one, let's just go to GL account general, double click on this one. You can see the information fields accordingly. Let's now start to create one GL account in the chart of accounts segment. Therefore, we click here on new. We need to provide a key for the GL account. The number of characters we can assign over here depends on our settings that we made during the creation of the chart of accounts itself. You can watch my other video that I will link both up here now and also in the video description. In my system, this is set to 8 characters. So I will now include the number over here. And we can see here on the right hand side that we can now fill certain information. Most importantly, you can see we must fill the GL account type. Let's actually click on this one. And here we have actually 5 general ledger account types. One is for balance sheet accounts, so accounts that will appear on our balance sheet regarding assets, liabilities, and equity. Then we have a non-operating expense or income accounts. Those are accounts for expenses and income, which is not related to our core business functionality, so to say. So for instance, a business that is dealing with steel, but also owns some buildings, would record any expense or income from the buildings as a non-operative expense or income, as it is not related to the core functionality of the business, which would be steel production. And then you can see one of the biggest advantages and innovations that come with SAP S/4HANA. So formerly in the ECC world, we had primary costs or revenue and secondary cost elements that we created in separate transactions. Now the primary cost or revenue cost elements and the secondary cost elements are also general ledger accounts. Examples for primary cost would be, for instance, wages or also administrative costs. And I think revenue is clear. Secondary costs, so GL accounts which are maintained as secondary costs and thereby also as secondary cost elements, are used for the internal cost allocation and controlling. So for instance, allocating costs from one cost center to other cost centers. And then we have something which is rather new called cash accounts. Those accounts are used to simplify the payment process and cash reporting. And SAP has introduced the cash account as a new way of mapping house banks with the general ledger accounts. In my case, I will set the GL account type to balance sheet account. You can also see that now the functional area was grayed out because the functional area is only relevant for profit and loss accounts. Then we also need to maintain the account group. So let's actually go back here on the left-hand side. Let me just close this. You can see 8 folders over here, and you will also see the respective 8 lines over here. Because we can group our general ledger accounts by the account group, and once I select one of those and save later on my GL account, it will appear here in the respective folder. For now I will say this is a general ledger account, so to say. Then we can also add the short text, which is up to 20 characters, and also a GL account long text, which is up to 50 characters. And then we have here one more tab for consolidation purposes, but we do not need to talk about this right now, as it is kind of an advanced topic. Then we can also click on the next tab over here, keyword translation. On this tab we have 2 options. First of all, we can define keywords for our chart of accounts in different languages, so it's easier to find the chart of accounts when searching for it. And secondly, we can maintain a translation for the chart of accounts. So imagine that you have colleagues working in other countries and they normally log on with another language, so we can maintain here also the short text and long text for their respective language. Last but not least, we have a tab called information, and once we save our general ledger account, then you can see here kind of the history of all the changes applied to this GL account. So let's actually click on save. Now you can see also here the information field filled, and we can click on change documents to see all the changes applied to this general ledger account. Also, you can see that our general ledger account appears here on the left hand side. Over here, let's scroll up, and we can see it appears under GL accounts general account group that we assigned in the type description tab under account group. So by now we created our general ledger account in the chart of accounts segment. What is missing is that we need to supplement this information with company code specific information. Because as I have told you before in the little presentation, all of our general ledger accounts consist of one chart of accounts segment that we just filled, and also the company code segment that we will now fill. Therefore we copy our GL account number over here, and now we navigate to transaction code /n FSS0, that's FSS0. You can see it now says edit general ledger account company code data. So now let's create our general ledger account with company code specific data. Therefore we click on new, provide your GL account in the respective company code, and click on continue. You can see that the system was able to identify the GL account already. For instance, here we can see our long text description up to 50 characters that we just maintained in the chart of accounts segment. Now it's time to add first of all control data. So our account currency, which is company code dependent. And then we have some other indicators over here. So the balances in local currency only indicator would indicate that balances are updated only in the local currencies when users post to this specific account. Then we have the tax category, determining whether this account is tax relevant or if it's even a tax account. So an account where we want exclusively to post taxes to. We can open here the search help, and here you can see we have a bunch of options. By typing in a minus, we could say only input tax allowed. With an asterisk, we could say that all tax types are allowed. With a plus, we could specify that only output taxes are allowed, and so on and so forth. We could even then here directly select what tax is accepted for this general ledger account. For now, I will set it to all taxes are allowed. Then we can here specifically mark whether when we post to this account, it is also allowed to post to this account without requiring taxes. And then you can see here the alternative account number. This is a topic you have also seen in my video about the chart of accounts. So it could be that a company code has both the operational chart of accounts assigned and also a local chart of accounts to reflect local accounting requirements. And we would link those 2 chart of accounts in another transaction. However, we also must link the GL account numbers. So we would need to link this number over here to the number that is maintained in the alternative chart of accounts. So if we have an alternative chart of accounts, we would include the number over here and thereby facilitate a linkage between the GL accounts. Over here we also have an important indicator called Open Item Management, and this would determine that journal entry line items are managed on an open item basis for this general ledger account. So the open item management itself is only relevant for general ledger accounts that are balance sheet accounts. So in our example, this would be relevant. And we use this indicator to group and track the clearing of open items. So meaning that journal entry line items posted to a GL account that is managed on this open item management basis are marked either as open or cleared, depending on whether we posted respective credits and debits. And then we have here the so-called sort key. So this key would then determine on which position our GL account would appear when posting financial documents. So for instance, it could appear on the first line, second line, and so on. Let's now go to the Create Bank Interest tab. And most importantly here is the field status group, which is even mandatory, as you can see. The field status group, together with the account group we already assigned in our chart of account segment, will determine what kind of fields are visible during the posting of financial transactions. For any financial transaction, let's say in posting an invoice and so on and so forth, this field status group will determine what fields are visible, mandatory, and so on. Let's actually select one over here, all fields optional. Then we have one more tab called Information again, where we will find more information about this company code. So it's assigned to the chart of accounts, YCOA. We even have an alternative chart of accounts over here, so normally it would make sense to also include the alternative account number. Then we have the country key, and we have the controlling area. And that's basically it. So we can click on Save again. And now our general ledger account is completely maintained, both in the chart of account segment and in the company code segment. There is even a transaction code where we can do both in one step, which is called /n FS00. That's FS00. Let's actually navigate to our account. And here you can see both now the chart of account segment and also the company code segment. Yeah, this marks the end of the video. I hope you enjoyed it. If so, please subscribe to the channel to not miss any more content and activate the bell.